I am Zach, and the night everything fell apart wasn't some loud, explosive thing with shouting or shattered glass. No, it was quiet, precise, like a blade slipped between my ribs while I was still smiling. You'd think something that awful would come with a warning, but no. It started with the buzz of a phone and a goddamn coffee mug. Friday night. I was standing in my kitchen in Brooklyn, just trying to unwind after a hellish week. Lauren, my wife of 10 years, was rushing around looking for her purse. She'd left her phone on the counter, screen up, still unlocked from earlier. I wasn't snooping, all right. I was pouring myself a cup of coffee. But that buzz, one buzz, and everything changed. The message lit up like a flashing siren in the dark. Can you come earlier? Can't stop thinking about last night. Sender, Brandon work. Work. Yeah, right. My fingers tightened around the mug so hard I thought it might crack. My heart was pounding, chest tight like I'd been punched. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen. I hadn't meant to read it. But now I couldn't not know. My thumb moved almost on its own, swiping open the message thread. God forgive me, I kept scrolling. There were dozens of messages, flirty, heated, unmistakably intimate. Mentions of hotel bars, late-night rendezvous. Compliments no married woman should ever get from a man who wasn't her husband. You looked incredible in that black dress. I still taste you. My stomach turned. I'd shared a bed with this woman for a decade. 10 years of laughs, fights, late-night takeout, family holidays. And she was out here acting like none of it mattered. Then I saw the most recent message. Meet me at Monroe Lounge, 8 p.m. That was tonight. Right now? Lauren breezed back into the kitchen like nothing was wrong. Her perfume hit me before her voice did. She kissed my cheek and said, "Hey babe, dinner with the team tonight. Don't wait up, okay?" I didn't flinch, didn't say a word, just nodded and smiled like a damn fool. Sure. Have fun, I managed to say. The second the door clicked shut behind her, I dropped into the chair like I'd been shot. Her phone was still in my hand, buzzing again. I didn't even look. I just stared at the countertop while my brain raced. My body was shaking, not from fear, but rage. Pure, molten, unfiltered rage. 10 years. 10 years. And she was sneaking around behind my back with some suit named Brandon from work. I could have called her. I could have screamed. Could have shown up at that lounge and dragged her out by the wrist. But no, that's not me. I do not react. I plan. I breathe. I burn slow. And in that moment, one thing became clear. I was not going to let her get away with this. Not quietly. Not cleanly. She wanted to play in the shadows? Then I'd bring her into the light. I needed leverage. I needed him, Brandon. I grabbed my laptop, typed his name into Facebook. And there he was. Brandon Hayes. A smug-looking corporate lawyer, all sharp suits and vacation photos. Private jets. Rooftop champagne. And in more than a few of those pictures, Lauren, my wife, with him, smiling like they had nothing to hide. But then something caught my eye, a woman. Small frame, wavy brown hair, standing next to Brandon in a family photo. A tag profile, Melissa Hayes. His wife. I clicked. Her feed was polished. Perfect. Glamorous Upper East Side life. Charity dinners. Designer outfits. No clue her husband was screwing someone else's wife. That's when the idea took shape. If Lauren and Brandon thought they could treat me like a joke, I'd show them what a real punchline looked like. Melissa Hayes deserved to know the truth. And maybe, just maybe, she'd be angry enough to help me do something about it. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about war. The next morning, I was parked across the street from some luxury tower on the Upper East Side, clutching a gas station coffee and staring at the glass entrance like it was the mouth of hell. Melissa Hayes lived here. I'd spent half the night piecing it all together, watching Brandon and Lauren's messages like they were a puzzle I had to solve to keep from going insane. The city was waking up around me, trucks roaring past, horns blaring, dogs barking at nothing. But all I could hear was her voice from last night. Dinner with the team. Don't wait up. Lying through her perfect little smile. My knuckles were white on the coffee cup. I wasn't nervous. I was electric. Like every cell in my body was standing at attention. Around 9 a.m., Melissa stepped out of the building like a scene out of a high-end magazine. Tall, graceful, flawless dark coat hugging her waist, heels clicking with quiet authority. She looked like the kind of woman who ran things. PDA, charity events, her marriage. I tossed the coffee in a trash can and made my move. Melissa Hayes? I asked, stepping into her path before she could vanish into the crowd. She stopped mid-stride and looked me over, her expression sharpening. Yes? Do I know you? No, I said. But we have something in common. Our spouses. She didn't blink, didn't frown. Her expression barely changed, except for a flicker in her eyes. She tilted her head. Who are you? My name's Zach. My wife is Lauren, and she's been sleeping with your husband. I could feel people moving past us on the sidewalk, some brushing close, but we were locked in that moment like we were the only two people on the street. She stared at me, and I saw the gears start to grind behind her eyes. I have proof, I said, pulling out my phone and flipping to the screenshots. This is from last night, and the week before, and the week before that. She took the phone without a word and started scrolling. Her lips tightened. Her breath caught once, just once, and then she handed it back like it was toxic. You sure this is real? She asked, voice low, almost shaking. I saw it with my own eyes. Last night, Monroe Lounge, 8 o'clock. I stayed home and watched her lie to my face, then walk out the door to meet him. Melissa's hands trembled slightly, but her voice turned cold. That son of a bitch, she muttered. I knew something was off. Late nights. Travel for work. Brandon's been distant for months. I kept thinking maybe I was imagining it. Guess I wasn't. I nodded, stuffing the phone back in my jacket. Look, I'm not here for pity. I want them to pay. I want this to hit so hard they never forget it. Melissa's eyes met mine, sharp as a switchblade. She wasn't crying. She wasn't falling apart. She was angry. You want to take them down? She said. Together? I nodded. Damn right. They're meeting again soon. Same lounge. We could walk in, drop the truth right in their laps. She almost smiled. You're a little intense. Maybe, I said, but I'm not wrong. A long pause. Her gaze lingered on me a moment longer than it needed to. She took a slow breath, crossed her arms, and said, let's talk. We ducked into a quiet cafe down the block. She ordered a black coffee like it was ammunition. I stuck to water. My stomach wasn't ready for caffeine. I've already pulled some dirt, I said. Texts, photos, names. I've got proof. You got anything? Melissa sipped her coffee and leaned forward. His laptop's at home. He's lazy with passwords. I could get into it. I raised an eyebrow. You serious? She nodded. Brandon's cocky. He thinks I'm clueless. But I see everything. He uses the same password for everything. I've been tempted to snoop before, just didn't have the nerve. But now, she laughed, low and bitter. Now I have all the reason I need. There was a fire building in her eyes now. A focus. And something else. Something I didn't expect. We sat there, side by side, planning destruction over warm mugs like co-conspirators in some twisted crime novel. She wasn't just helping me. She wanted this for herself. For her pride. Her dignity. Her revenge. And maybe, just maybe, because we were both so shattered that the idea of tearing them apart gave us something to hold on to. At one point, our fingers brushed as we passed my phone back and forth. She didn't pull away. Neither did I. There was electricity. Not attraction, exactly. Something raw. Shared pain wrapped in fury. This will hurt them, she said. But it needs to be public. Loud. Something they can't lie their way out of. Oh, don't worry, I said. I want them embarrassed. Exposed. Humiliated. Same. She whispered, her voice close enough that I felt the breath on my neck. Let's blow it up. We left the cafe with a plan locked in. Melissa walked beside me, head high, steps sharp. She didn't look like a victim. Neither did I. We were done crying. Now we were hunting. That night, they'd be sipping cocktails and whispering sweet nothings. But not for long. They had no idea the storm that was about to crash through their perfect little fantasy. Saturday night hit New York like a damn freight train. Neon lights smeared the wet sidewalks. Horns echoed between buildings, and I stood outside the Monroe Lounge in a black jacket, heart thundering like a war drum. Beside me was Melissa, lips painted dark red, eyes glowing with controlled fury. You ready? She asked, brushing a lock of hair from her cheek. I was born ready, I said, cracking my knuckles. Let's make 'em choke on their martinis. The Monroe Lounge was pure money, dim lights, velvet booths, chandeliers that sparkled like ice. Everyone inside smelled like cologne and secrets. It was the kind of place where people cheated, lied, and laughed about it afterward over $40 cocktails. We stepped through the doors like we owned the place. Melissa walked ahead, all smooth confidence and fury in heels. I followed close, eyes scanning. The music pulsed low, bass thrumming in my chest. I could smell the tension, taste it in the air. Then I saw them. Lauren and Brandon, tucked in the back corner, their heads leaning close, her hand on his chest. She wore a tight black dress I had never seen before, low neckline, clinging to her like it had been sewn on. His hand was on her thigh, fingers drawing slow, possessive circles. They looked smug, like they were living in a movie only they were allowed to star in. My fists clenched, but I kept walking. I caught Melissa's eye and gave a small nod. Showtime. Lauren noticed me first. Her laugh died in her throat, and her eyes widened like she'd seen a ghost. Brandon turned, casual at first, until he saw Melissa. His arm jerked back like she was poison. "Melissa," he said, voice already cracking. "What the hell are you?" "Hey, sweetheart," she interrupted, sliding into the booth next to him, her voice dripping ice. "Don't let us interrupt. Looks like you were so busy." I slipped into the booth next to Lauren, so close I could smell that familiar perfume she always wore when she wanted to impress. Vanilla and something floral. I leaned in slowly. "Hey babe," I said with a wicked grin. "How's that work dinner going?" Her mouth opened and closed. No sound. Her eyes darted around the room like a rabbit caught in headlights. "Zach, I can explain." "Don't." I cut her off, my voice low and sharp. "Don't even try." Brandon straightened his back, trying to regain control. "Look, let's not do this here." "Oh, but this is exactly the place," Melissa snapped. "Your favorite lounge, right? All those client dinners." "Jesus, Brandon. You even charged them to the firm." Heads were turning now. The whispers started like a slow ripple. People were watching. Phones tilted subtly. I saw the bartender's hand stop mid-wipe. The whole lounge was beginning to tune in. Lauren's cheeks flamed red. "Zach, please," she whispered. "Not here. Can we talk in private?" "No," I said, loud enough for the next table to hear. "We're doing this right here, in the spotlight you chose when you climbed into bed with him." Brandon's hand curled into a fist on the table. "This is ridiculous," he growled. "Oh yeah," I said, yanking out my phone and flipping to a screenshot. "Then explain these. Texts about hotel rooms, how she tasted, how she looked in that black dress." I turned the screen toward him, then toward the people at the surrounding tables. "Look familiar?" One guy at the next booth snorted and muttered, "Damn," under his breath. Melissa leaned back, arms crossed, voice calm but venomous. "So, Brandon, tell us, how long's this been going on? Since the first business trip? Or the second?" Brandon pushed back from the table, eyes darting. "We're leaving," he snapped. "You go," Melissa said coldly. "I'm not moving. You don't get to run from this." Lauren looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Her mascara had started to smudge, and she clutched her purse like it could protect her. "Zach, I never meant." "Stop," I said. "You meant every word in those texts. Every sneaky night. Every lie. You meant it. Just like I meant it when I promised I'd never forgive betrayal." They stood together now, cornered, humiliated, with the whole bar watching. Brandon grabbed Lauren by the arm and stormed toward the exit, both of them tripping over themselves to get out. The door slammed behind them. The lounge was silent for a beat. Then conversations slowly resumed, like the room had taken a breath. I leaned back against the booth, breathing hard. Melissa looked over at me, eyes still sharp, mouth twitching with something like satisfaction. "Well," she said, "that was fun." "Damn right it was," I said, exhaling. "But it's just the beginning." And deep down, I knew we'd hit them hard. But we were not done yet. Not even close. The high from the Monroe Lounge didn't last long. By the time Sunday morning rolled around, I was pacing my apartment like a caged animal. I kept thinking about the look on Lauren's face, the way Brandon had tried to act like he still had control. It had felt good watching them squirm. But not good enough. Embarrassment wasn't enough. I wanted destruction. I wanted their world shattered the way they shattered mine. That morning, Melissa and I got to work like soldiers planning an ambush. I combed through Lauren's phone, texts, emails, calendar entries, voice memos. Even found a few giggles about how fun it was sneaking around. I wanted to throw the phone through the wall, but instead, I cataloged everything. Melissa, on her end, had gone full spy. She texted me around noon. Got into his laptop. "Meet me. It's worse than we thought." I rushed to her place with a folder full of screenshots and receipts. When she opened the door, she looked different. Colder. Not angry, not driven. Calm. Too calm. Morning, I said, stepping inside. You ready to light the match? She didn't answer, just turned and walked toward the living room. That smell again. Coffee, candles, something sharp underneath. My gut twisted. Melissa? I asked, suddenly on edge. What's going on? She turned slowly, arms crossed, standing by the window. Her posture was stiff, eyes unreadable. And then she said it. Flat. Final. Zach, we need to talk. That phrase, it's never good. My stomach sank. I found something, she continued, picking up a tablet from the coffee table. Or rather, Brandon did. Before I could ask what the hell she meant, the front door creaked open. Brandon walked in, calm, smirking. That same smug bastard I wanted to knock flat 2 nights ago. And right behind him, Lauren. My mouth went dry. What the hell is this? I snapped, backing away as they came closer. Melissa? Lauren couldn't even look me in the eye. Her arms were wrapped tight around her waist, lips pressed into a line. Brandon looked relaxed, like he was hosting a brunch. Take a seat, he said like I was a guest in his home. I didn't move. Melissa raised the tablet and hit play. Text messages flashed across the screen. Photos. Me. With a brunette I'd never seen before. Blurry nightclub shots. One where her hand was on my arm. Another where we were laughing. Text bubbles scrolled underneath. Last night was wild. Can't stop thinking about your hands. Next time, no interruptions. All supposedly from me. What the hell is this? I barked. That's not real. I don't even know that woman. But it looks real, Melissa said, cold as ice. And that's what matters. My blood ran cold. You fake this? You're setting me up? Brandon chuckled. We figured if you were so eager to go public, maybe you deserved a little fame yourself. I looked at Lauren, my wife, my traitor. Her eyes were flat now, empty. You're part of this. I said. You knew? She finally spoke. You should have let it go, Zach. You were going to ruin everything. I had no choice. No choice. I shouted. You cheated. You lied. You made your bed. Now you're dragging me into the dirt with you. Melissa stepped between us. You don't get it, do you? You were just a pawn. A loud, reckless pawn. You helped me get what I needed from Brandon. Now you're just noise. And noise gets silenced. I took a step back, heart pounding, mind reeling. You said we were a team. No, she said. You thought we were. Brandon leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. We've already sent the messages to your job, your friends, your family. Everyone you care about is going to think you're the one who strayed. And when you try to explain, no one's going to believe the guy screaming about a setup with no proof. They thought they had me. But what they didn't know, what they never thought to consider, was that I had been recording every conversation with Melissa since day one. It was an old habit from work, a CYA routine that had saved my ass more than once. I stayed calm. Just enough. Fine, I muttered. You want to bury me? Good luck with that. I grabbed my folder from the chair where I'd dropped it earlier and turned toward the door. Where do you think you're going? Brandon called out. I didn't answer. Didn't look back. Just walked out, their laughter trailing behind me like smoke from a fire. But that fire wasn't over. They thought I was finished. They thought they'd won. But they'd just made one critical mistake. They forgot who they were dealing with. I stumbled out of Melissa's apartment with that folder clutched in my hand like it was the last solid thing I had in this world. My head was spinning. Not from the shock. Not anymore. Now it was rage. Cold, sharp, focused. Their voices still echoed behind me. Smug, confident, convinced they had me buried. But they didn't know everything. They didn't know I had audio. All those hours of talking to Melissa, planning revenge, drinking coffee in dark corners of cafes, recorded. Every bitter word, every quiet threat, every time she slipped up and said too much. I got home, locked the door, and dumped the folder on my kitchen table. Then I grabbed my phone and scrubbed through the recordings, fingers trembling with adrenaline. I played back hours of audio, jumping past background noise and low murmurs until I found it. Melissa's voice, clear and cruel. Once we've got enough dirt, I'll flip it. Brandon and I will pin everything on Zach. He won't see it coming. My heart pounded so loud I almost didn't hear the next line. He's useful now. After that, he's just a liability. There it was. Gold. My way out. My proof. I transferred the file to a flash drive. I didn't even flinch as my phone buzzed with texts, friends, coworkers, even my boss. All variations of, what's going on? Is this true? Call me now. They had already sent the fake screenshots out, and they hit hard. But I was still standing. And now I was going to hit back. I remembered a message Lauren sent a few days ago, bragging about a fancy charity gala Brandon's firm was sponsoring. Black tie, press, all eyes on them. She was gloating in the text, calling it the perfect night to shine. Perfect. If they wanted a stage, I was going to give them a show. I threw on an old tux, shoved the flash drive and a printed copy of the screenshots into my jacket pocket, and headed out. The gala was in Midtown, all glitter and champagne. I walked through the entrance like I belonged. Anger made me invisible. The room smelled like wealth and arrogance. And there they were. Lauren in a sparkling gold dress, clinging to Brandon like she was auditioning for some magazine cover. He was laughing with some partners. Melissa was there too, radiant in red, sipping a martini with the same mouth that had called me useful. I spotted a young guy by the AV table, fiddling with the screen set up for the speeches. $20 and a favor, I said, sliding the flash drive into his hand. Play this when I give the nod. He blinked. What is it? Truth, I said, loud and clear. He shrugged. All right. The host stepped up on stage, mic in hand, starting the usual speech about donations and corporate responsibility. I moved to the center of the room, standing still among a sea of laughter and clinking glasses. Then I nodded. The speakers crackled, and Melissa's voice boomed across the marble floors. Once we've got enough dirt, I'll flip it. Brandon and I will pin everything on Zach. The crowd froze. The room turned. Gasps. Whispers. Eyes snapped toward the stage. Phones lifted. He's useful now. After that, he's just a liability. I stepped forward, holding up my phone, flipping to Lauren's real texts. The screenshots. The affair. The proof. This is my wife, I said, loud and steady. And the man she's been cheating with. They tried to frame me as the cheater. But this, I held up the flash drive, is the truth. Lauren's face went pale. Brandon's smile melted into panic. Melissa dropped her glass. The host tried to kill the feed, too late. The audio looped again. The crowd erupted into chaos. Gasps turned into shouts. Someone yelled, "Holy shit," and cameras flashed. Brandon's boss was already pulling him aside. I saw someone point at Lauren. Melissa was screaming, "Turn it off," but no one moved. I tossed the printed screenshots into the air like confetti. Pages fluttered across the marble floor like snow, photos, receipts, texts. You're done, I said, locking eyes with all three of them. Brandon shoved through the crowd. Lauren was crying, begging him to fix it. Melissa stood frozen, lips parted, watching her entire plan implode. I didn't stay. I walked out the front doors, the cool night air wrapping around me like freedom. I had done it. They tried to destroy me. They underestimated me. And I used their own games to drag them down. By the next morning, news had broken. Brandon was fired. Ethics violations, misuse of funds, public scandal. Melissa disappeared from socials. Lauren, well, the PDA moms turned on her faster than piranhas. She went dark too. I got a call from my boss that afternoon. We're sorry we doubted you. Glad you came forward. No lawsuit. No job loss. Just peace. A few days later, Lauren showed up at my door. No makeup. Eyes hollow. Can we talk? She asked. No, I said. You're throwing away 10 years. You threw it away the second you chose him. I shut the door. And that was that. The war was over. The fire they started? I let it burn, and made sure they burned with it. It had been a week since the gala, and New York felt like a different city. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I was different. I sat in my apartment, the same place where this whole nightmare began, sipping coffee that didn't taste like ash anymore. The air was quiet. No buzzing phone. No fake laughs echoing from the hallway. Just me. And silence. And honestly, that was enough. Lauren was gone. Word was she'd moved in with her sister in Jersey, hiding from the fallout. Her social life had imploded. Neighbors turned cold. Her picture-perfect image shattered into something ugly and real. I heard she tried reaching out to some of our friends, but nobody returned her calls. Nobody wanted to be part of her wreckage. Brandon? Last I saw of him was a headline. Law firm cuts ties after ethics scandal. Rumors flew. Fired, sued, blacklisted. I didn't care. Let him rot in the mess he helped create. And Melissa? She vanished. Like smoke. No more curated Instagram posts. No apology. No explanation. Maybe she realized her own venom finally splashed back on her. She gambled. She lost. And me? I didn't win either, not really. You don't win something like this. You survive it. You crawl out of the burning house. choking on smoke, covered in bruises, and realize you're still breathing. That's the win. A few nights later, I met my buddy Chris for a beer at this dive bar we used to hit in college. It was dark, loud, smelled like wings and old wood. Comfortable. He slid a bottle across the table. "You good?" he asked. I took a sip. Nodded. "Yeah, I'm getting there." "Crazy what happened," he said. "But, damn man, you handled it." I shrugged. Didn't really have a choice. Either go down, or fight like hell. He smiled. "Well, you swung hard. You didn't just survive, you burned the whole damn castle down." We clinked bottles, and for the first time in months, I actually laughed. Not bitter. Not forced. Real. On my way home, I walked through the city like I was seeing it fresh. The streets buzzed, horns blared, couples argued on corners, taxis screeched by. Life kept moving. It didn't wait for broken hearts. I didn't look back. Not once. Lauren was my past. So was Brandon. So was Melissa. That part of my life was dead and buried beneath their lies. And I wasn't about to dig it up again. I got home, dropped my keys on the table, and stood by the window for a minute. The skyline blinked back at me, bright and endless. A new chapter. No heroes. No villains. Just a man who took a hit and kept standing. I smiled to myself and said it out loud, soft but sure. This time, I write the ending. And I meant it.